Hey guys, this is Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, coming to you from Louisiana, going to the Red Pill conference at Jekyll Island, Georgia. I just filmed a huge rant for like 43 miles driving, probably one of the better rants I've ever done. But it was a really kind of impassioned plea. While driving, I was listening to actually a bunch of tinfoil hats. I had them, I'd stocked up on it so that way I'd have something to get me through this 5,000 mile round trip journey. But just listen to the one talking about Aleister Crowley and a whole bunch of pedophile, satanic shit, and put me kind of on that. And then I just got out of rush hour, so kind of on edge. So it was dropped a lot of F-bombs, so I probably don't want to have your kids in the room, but it's only because I care about humanity. And when you really start understanding this stuff deeper, and I didn't get into any of this stuff, I didn't get into like the spiritual side of things, but you see that whether you believe in the devil or not, or God or not, the people that are running shit, they do. And so we're up against a lot of really evil stuff. And so ultimately we're heading into a different age, heading into the age of Aquarius now, where there's going to be a whole bunch of a lot of different vibrational shifts, which probably explains a lot of what's going on right now. And even though I gave an impassioned plea, I'm not sitting around dropping F-bombs all day, and I'm actually a pretty happy person, but it's just because I care and I see about this stuff so far out in the future that it is just really frustrating being at this point where I don't like being right. I don't like being right on this stuff. I don't like being right talking about a global technocracy coming through. So hope you guys enjoy this show, and because of this type of material, can't bank on it being on YouTube forever. So please check out the LibertyAdvisor. Actually, go to Liberty Advisor Show, or the Liberty Advisor Show, brings it to the same place. And there, I believe, my man Crane hooked me up with a website when I was driving, so I haven't really fully checked it out, but I believe you can find links there, or just go to library.tv, lbry.tv, and search for the Liberty Advisor on there. Search for it on float.app for the Liberty Advisor over there, or DLive. Just we're trying to get to other places, but or bookmark the Liberty Advisor Show, because you can't bank on this information. I mean, you think I'm exposing things like the Federal Reserve, exposing the deep state, exposing the real shit that they don't want you to find out about. So that's why I've gotten the shadow ban out of the gates. That's why Josh has got the shadow ban. That's why Luke Radowski's got the shadow ban. That's why so many of our friends and former friends here have gotten the shadow ban, because they don't want you to know this information. I'm not saying this is a marketing ploy. I'm saying this is the real shit they don't want you knowing. So I'm headed to Jekyll Island now. Hope you guys enjoy the show that was coming up. I was only expecting, all I was doing is I was hitting 100,000 miles in my vehicle and thought I was going to make like a minute-long video, then went on a 43-mile rant. So I hope you guys like it, but probably don't want to have your kids in the room, or if you do have your kids in the room, maybe want to do some earmuffs. But anyways, it's all because I'm not some pissed off white guy over here. It's because I actually do care about humanity. I do care about what's going on, and it just pains me to see that so few people are taking action. But if you don't know this information, you can't take action on it. So unfortunately, they're trying to hijack our emotions, because there are a lot of good people in Black Lives Matters, and there's a lot of good people on both sides, but then they're hijacked and manipulated to talk about bullshit that doesn't matter. And so I'm trying to get through this left-right paradigm to expose the things that actually matter. And I'm not perfect. I'm just some guy over here talking on a cell phone right now. And if you think you can do a better job, then go do a better job. It's never been about me. Like, I initially started doing activism, and I was like, oh man, if I can reach 1 million people in a week, and then think about if I can train an army of like 1,000 other people, we can hijack this entire shit. But then they realized, oh, Donald Trump is elected, so now we can never let that happen again. And the thing is, it wasn't about Donald Trump getting elected, but now I don't have that reach anymore. Guys like Josh, unfortunately, don't have. Yeah, they've got, in the grand scheme of things, 5,000-10,000 people watching the video is pretty good. But the T.R. Griffin video we did, there should be 1 million fucking people watching that video. And not to say like I'm the best or everyone should be watching the videos, because it's real information that really matters. So love you guys. Make sure you check out those other stations. I don't want to have a video that's going to come across as really angry, but it is stuff that when you learn that you're a slave, sorry, I'm not going to take it laying down, and I'm not going to take it politely, and I've almost lost my voice if you guys can hear me. So what, it's because I care about humanity. I care about my kids and future grandchildren and where things are going. Well, I don't really care for where things are going, which is why I want to alter the path, because this path is not preset. We have a chance right now, and if we don't do anything now, then don't bitch later when the control grid completely collapsed. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy the show. Make sure you check out all the other places to find this information, and the podcast as well, where you can hear all this stuff in audio format. Take care. Hey, so just want to make another quick addendum. I didn't know a hurricane was going to be rolling through the Gulf Coast. This is actually Thursday, so it looks like things are supposed to be hitting right at that exact area that I was recording that video at. We do have a lot of rain going on right here. Not sure if that's related to the storm or not. We've got people slowing down to a halt right this second, but you know, thoughts and prayers are with everyone in the Gulf Coast. And when I was making that video and talking about Lake Charles, Louisiana, I didn't realize there was going to be a hurricane rolling through. I think that was like Tuesday when I made that rant. But anyways, hope you guys enjoy and hope everyone is safe down in there in Louisiana. So about to hit 100,000 miles. I don't think I've actually ever hit one of these milestones in a car before. My first car almost hit 200,000, but it died at like, I think like 198, so never got the satisfaction. But right now, actually, sorry, I just flipped it to that. Oh, you know what, I missed it, hit 100,000. So anyways, the reason why I'm doing this trip right now is because, you know, actually I probably should start off and say where I'm going. Actually headed to Jekyll Island right now. So that is, for those of you who don't know what it is, Jekyll Island is an island off the coast of Georgia, which was actually J.P. Morgan's private estate, or the Morgan family's private estate back in the day. And that's where all the robber barons, basically you take the richest people in the world, they all got together underneath fake names and went down to Jekyll Island on Senator Nelson Aldrich's train car. Now, it's been 12 years since I've read the book Creature from Jekyll Island. It's spelled J-E-K-Y-L-L, so not exactly like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but it's close. So I'd highly recommend people check that book out. Also check out the interview I did with G. Edward Griffin, and this will probably be one of the last major, you know, freedom events going on. At least it's on the books. But getting back to the story, so you had Nelson Aldrich, who I believe was the father-in-law of Rockefeller at the time, and they used a whole bunch of propaganda. J.P. Morgan owned all the newspapers back then. They were trying to tell people that the Federal Reserve Act at the time was going to be the worst thing ever to happen to the big banks, when in actuality it was going to be the best thing to happen to them. This was all precipitated on, initially there was a panic of 1907, and J.P. Morgan had to personally backstop the entire financial system. And he's like, oh wow, that really fucking sucks, having to use all my own money, and at the time what would be the equivalent of, you know, billions of dollars to balance the system. So wouldn't it be better if we had a system where every time we fuck up, we get to have the treasury balance out, and we get to keep, so we get to make all the money on the way up, and then get to socialize all the losses and don't get hurt at all. Fast forward 100 years to 2008, basically that was the playbook where the banks obviously fucked up big time, and instead of anybody going to jail, instead of anybody having to take a haircut, you know what happened is all these guys got richer and richer and richer, like people like Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan Chase, you know, makes comments that, you know, he's a billionaire because he's smarter than you. Well, no, he's just raping you, taking your money, and the reason that the ultra rich want to have high taxes is because they are the ones who are getting your fucking money. They are the ones who are getting your money. The ultra rich, like people like Donald Trump, not to bash him, but they're not paying taxes. And you know, obviously there's some taxes they pay, and payroll taxes and all their employees and property taxes and things like that. But you know, guys like Warren Buffett advocate raising your taxes because A, he doesn't pay the income tax, he mainly pays the capital gains tax, and he avoids the capital gains tax by doing advanced charitable giving, which in the case of someone like Bill Gates, you know, is giving a charitable donation to these entities that then advocate for vaccines that he then owns, you know, patents on, and owns the companies, and then is bragging at Davos making a 20-to-1 return. And I didn't have any idea of what I was going to say when I decided to make this rant. But getting back to Jekyll Island, this all happened at Jekyll Island. So G. Edward Griffin, he's 89 years old. The last one that they had at Jekyll Island in terms of these Red Pill events was 10 years ago. So obviously, you know, fast forward to 10 years, hopefully, you know, obviously, you know, I hope he's around at 99, but who knows, you know, how bad stuff's going to be. Who knows if we're even going to be allowed to travel, you know, without some sort of vaccine passport. And, you know, my time is valuable, and the last thing I want to be doing right now is taking a 5,000-mile fucking road trip because, you know, I don't want to wear a mask, and I want to have, you know, videos like this to show, you know, my kids and grandchildren down the road that their, you know, grandpa and their dad wasn't a pussy, and that, you know, I'm not afraid of any of this stuff, and I've been gallivanting around everywhere, and I'm not sick. I haven't been sick once, and I haven't worn a mask And so how come, I mean, I've done all the worst things possible. I've gone to Jekyll Freedom Festival, hundreds of people there that I was in close proximity to. Pork Fest was probably 1,000 people at. Anarcho Vegas, going to this. I mean, if anyone should be, hurt by this, if this is such a pandemic going on, it should be the guy walking around without a mask. And there's going to be a whole lot of people 10 years from now and 5 years from now who are going to say, oh yeah, I didn't wear a mask. Well, yeah, bullshit, because probably 99% of you motherfuckers probably were wearing masks. And you know what? And all of you guys, tough guys out there said, hey, we've got AR-15s and we're going to go stand up against the government. No, you're not. You can't even, walk around without a fucking mask on. You think you're going to go take a gun and go shoot somebody, and who are you going to shoot? I mean, we've got a technocracy right now where it's not about, if we're getting to the point where we're in some sort of hot war, and I'm not advocating war because, the reason I'm on the information war here is because I don't want there to be a hot war. But, if you're too much of a pussy to stand up now, like you really think you're going to go into battle, and I'm sure there's kind of people say like, oh, how come you were never in the military? Well, guess what? People like Kissinger say that the troops are basically dumb fuckers that are used as chess pieces. And actually his quote is something very similar to that. I mean, I'm driving right now, so I don't have the exact quote, but it's something like what it was? I think he said they're dumb fucking animals, or they're dumb animals that are used as pawns. And so, these are the people making foreign policy. They're using our troops as pawns. They don't give a shit about the troops. They're putting the troops, in 9/11, they're sending the troops over there with no armor, over there and sitting ducks. I mean, the last thing the U.S. government cares is about your health. And getting back to this technocracy, it's not going to be about, we're going to get into a shooting war with somebody, because guess what? They're going to have the money to the point where it's all going to be centrally controlled by the government. I mean, the Fed announced, oh yeah, we're not going to be able to give out a big bump coming up here on the highway. We're not going to be, people would give out, dollar bills or $2 bills, and they'd get, some nice minted, freshly minted, treasury bills or coins for Christmas or for the holidays. Well, the Fed recently announced they're not going to be doing that, and they'll try to make efforts to get newer bills, but they're not going to be doing new bills because they want to get rid of cash. They want to phase it out. And some of you are saying, oh, well, they're probably, cash is already 97% digital anyways. Yeah, you're right, but we're not at 100%. And so what they want to do is, once you're at 100%, then they're going to say, oh, well, we have a negative interest rate. We're just going to take money out of your fucking bank account. Or, guess what? You didn't get your vaccine, so we're not going to give you, your $2,000 a month stipend, which is something that's part of Kamala Harris's plan, and she's probably going to end up being the real president here. And so to see all this stuff and forecast it, this guy's super dangerously close to the curve over here ahead of me. But, to see, to be able to, forecast this stuff so long ago, and there's people a lot smarter than me, and there's people that forecasted this shit way before I did. It's just very frustrating, especially with Trump. I mean, the goal was never, I was never a Trump fan in 2016 because I thought, oh, he's the end-all be-all. I thought he was a good person to be able to beat Hillary, and I knew that his style, like Rand Paul's style, were probably the only two people that even had a chance of beating Hillary. But, I predicted early on video, anybody can go back and see this, that, I bet if we had 8 years of Trump, that he would probably actually expand the debt at the same rate as Obama. And actually now, I mean, fuck, at the rates they're going now, he's gonna, in 4 years, basically add as much to the debt as Obama did. And, don't tell me, oh, that's because of this or that. You know what, Republicans controlled everything. We still have Obamacare. They did fucking nothing. Everything, the whole system's a big fucking joke. And at this point, literally in March 2016, 2017 at this point, I was calling out why Trump would lose, because all he needed to do was piss off. He doesn't need to kowtow to the Fox News crowd. All those 80-year-olds who don't know anything, they're going to vote for him no matter what. He doesn't need to kowtow to the MAGA Q-tards. What he needs to do, if he really wanted to win, was to kowtow to people like me or to other libertarians, because, I was running probably the most influential libertarian pro-Trump group there was. Sort of embarrassed to say that now. Trump, his first day in office was the day my daughter was born. I was wearing a Trump shirt and had a life-size cutout of him, so I'm not some Trump derangement syndrome person, and I can't stand all the Trump derangement syndrome people that are out there. But it wasn't about Trump. I mean, I don't know what people can't get this through their fucking minds. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about freedom, and we have a lot less freedom today, way more deficit, and he plays these games where he's, acting, when he's, recovering from the coronavirus, that, he's acting all strong and says a bunch of good stuff, and then at the very end he's like, oh yeah, we need to get the vaccine. Well, if you're saying it's not that big of a deal and don't let it run your life, then why would you need to get an unproven vaccine? It's absolutely ridiculous. We are now entering Louisiana, right by Lake Charles, Louisiana, which I think was where Grant Cardone is from. So I've taken some of his courses for what it's worth. And if you're in sales, or you're watching this and you're young, or you got some kids or grandkids who are looking to get into sales or marketing, and I think he's actually a better marketer than he is salesman, but you're better off, spending like $1,000 in his course than you are going to, taking some marketing, getting some $120,000 degree somewhere. So shout out to Uncle G, Grant Cardone, Lake Charles, Louisiana. I took his course, and yeah, I mean, I think, I don't, agree with everything he says, but, I think he does know, quite a bit about, when it comes to marketing and sales. But anyways, I only mention that because, I see a sign for Lake Charles, and that's, I've seen Uncle G mention that a bunch. But, just continuing on with this, it's not about getting Donald Trump reelected. I mean, he picked Jerome Powell out of the gates. I mean, Jerome Powell for Fed chairman, which he later said was his worst decision he ever made, there's been more debt the Federal Reserve has purchased underneath Donald Trump than every fucking president combined. You hear that? Every single one. The number one thing I said I didn't want Trump to do to get in there was to, keep a phony stock market bubble going, because that only really benefits 10% of the people. It's going to be bad optics. And then if he also goes through and starts, bombing people, because he only needs to really piss off 1% of the people, then that's one issue. The other issue, something I raised 4 years ago, was talking about fraction magic voting, where they can take your vote and they have like 40, they'll have decimals. So they'll have like 0.6 of your vote go over here, 0.4% of your vote go over there, and then they'll multiply, candidate B by like 1.25, and then the votes are actually expressed as decimals. Why are votes expressed as decimals? There's no reason a vote should be expressed as a decimal. It's because they are corrupt. If they can rig it, they will rig it. And the reason they didn't rig it in 2006, well, they did rig it in 2016, and they still lost. But the reason this go around is different is because if you think Hillary is going to win and has 0% chance of basically losing, is what, I had own family members who were staging interventions with me, calling me an idiot for thinking Trump's going to win. And to their credit, most of them apologized to me. But if you think there's no chance in hell Hillary's going to lose, are you going to risk getting a felony to hack the voting machines? Are you going to risk getting a felony to those retail voter fraud, dead people voting, mail-in voter fraud, stuffing ballots, and ballots coming in that were unsolicited, and like losing votes and all sorts of shit like that. And there's more high-tech fraud of hacking the machines, and there's even more insidious fraud, which is the fraction magic. So go look up Bev Harris, B-E-V Harris, and then watch her documentary on, I think it's called Hacking Democracy. I called her the other day, left a message because I'm trying to actually interview her. Sam Tripoli recently did a podcast with Dr. Shiva Harigadari on the same subject, and I wish Shiva knew this 4 years ago, because voting first off doesn't matter, but if you are going to vote, you might as well make sure your vote counts through the blockchain, and they can make it instantly today. We can figure out how to do this. But 4 years ago, you can go back to the early podcasts when I didn't even have that many of them. Number one episode was talking about how Trump needed to, basically not, tout up the economy, tout up the stock market. He needed to, get rid of the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve is a high-tech slave system. So if you aren't addressing the fact that you're a fucking slave, then you're not doing any good for me. So I don't care that he's keeping this bullshit system alive, and then now we have a system where we don't know who's really going to win, we don't know if the votes are counted, all sorts of voter fraud, and you know what, that should have been addressed 4 years ago. But instead, they, I think he's done a lot better job than every other president in my life, but okay, who have the other presidents been? Clinton, Bush, and Obama, both the Bushes and Obama. Oh, that's a real high bar we're setting there. So, the whole thing's a joke. If the Federal Reserve isn't on your radar and you're worried about politics, you're part of the joke. If you're offended by that, then you should be, because, you're probably 40 years old, don't know what the Fed is, don't know how they're the ones wrecking your lives. And then again, people in my HOA, when I'm making comments and saying that I'm what's wrong with America, like, not saying, if you're watching this, you're probably one of my fans, so, I shouldn't be, not like taking any anger out on you, but it's just so frustrating, seeing this destruction of this entire country, and, nobody doing anything about it. I've been, going into all these stores, pretty much everywhere, like the only one that doesn't have a mask on. And, you know, all these big tough guys want to make it seem like they're going to go take their AR-15s and go waiting for, you know, the UN to come knocking at their home. And, you know what, you get people who are, you know, not to say you guys, but, you know, those people are not going to do shit. And you know what, if this coronavirus is some big real pandemic that's going down, then why the fuck haven't I, like, have I been doing all the worst things possible? Because I'm also doing some good things too. I mean, I'm taking, you know, chaga mushrooms and spirulina and, you know, tons of vitamin C. I mean, look at this tan. Obviously, I'm outside a lot, and tons of natural vitamin D. You know, not always, I mean, you know, I do, you know, I drink a little bit and probably do some other stuff I shouldn't be doing, eating hamburgers and stuff like that, so I'm not perfect, but you know what? A lot of people aren't doing half the shit I'm doing to get on the offense of this stuff. And then they're also, you know, they're staying inside. When you're staying inside, you're going to weaken your immune system because you aren't exposing yourself to certain pathogens, which, you know, for what it's worth, then you get everybody on lockdown, and they come out of lockdown at the same time. They're all in weakened immune systems. They're not getting, you know, fresh air, and then they're all getting sick. And so if you are, I mean, we should be taking like really deep breaths. You know, don't Google search Wim Hof. You're gonna DuckDuckGo it or Brave browser search it. WIM, last name HOFF. You know, YouTube it. And it's this whole breathing method. It helps alkalize your body. And what that means is, you know, you're raising up your pH level of your body, because your body, you know, I'm not a doctor or anything, but you know, cancer can't grow in high alkaline environments, or, you know, certainly a lot easier in acidic environments, and that's something no one ever talks about. No one ever talks about, you know, the pH of your blood. And you know what? I should get my blood pH checked. I haven't checked it, and you know, I had a Dr. Pepper, you know, today. Didn't have any caffeine yesterday. I drove 1,000 miles, so you know, I'm not hyped up on anything right now, like, except for like one Dr. Pepper 3 hours ago. But yesterday, yeah, I had nothing, and it's just so frustrating when you get, you know, all these, you know, fat asses who are like 300 pounds who want to, you know, give me health advice. I'm, you know, 2-time Ironman triathlete, 5-time half Ironman triathlete. You know, 4 years ago today, ran the Grand Canyon rim to rim, done probably 100-mile bike rides, and, you know, just did a triathlon this past weekend off no training. Was the first person out of the water. So you know what? When you guys can do like 0.1% of what I do to go on the offense and have the ability to do what I can do, then maybe I'll take a you know, actually, this is a ton of sulfur coming up, so I wonder if this is probably going to smell great. But you know what? Maybe that's a good way to end it. So, you know, I'm heading out to Jekyll Island. I want to have proof like this that, you know, to my kids and grandkids, that, and great-grandchildren, if we even make it that far, that, you know, I tried doing something that's out there. Why? A lot of people out there did absolutely nothing, and we're going to see what this means for humanity, because we really are at a crossroads right now. They're pushing in the digital cash through the Federal Reserve centrally controlled system, and it's going to be checkmate at that point, complete checkmate. And yeah, there's ways, things you can do to, you know, sort of get yourself ahead of that and try to position your assets ahead of that. But, you know, yeah, having more money during that period would be a good thing than not. But, you know, they're gonna get us into this checkmate system, and, you know, if Hillary was already in there, they would have already had social credit score, which now they've rebranded as contact tracing. You know, I mean, because these people, you have like literally the highest IQ people in the world, who are, you know, all the psychologists and all the, you know, all the top marketing people, and, you know, go look up, you know, Edward Bernays, or go look up, you know, someone like, you know, like his film Century of Enslavement or Century of Yourself. I forgot what it was called, but yeah, it's on YouTube. It's really great. Even Kanye West tweeted out about it, and that's when they really started going after Kanye 3 years ago. But you know, it's all propaganda, and they're trying to propagandize what is the best game theory to get everyone to take this vaccine. What's the best game theory to basically get everyone begging for their own enslavement, which is why you have the creator of the Federal Reserve System was Paul Warburg, who was modeled after Daddy Warbucks in the play Annie, who said, "We shall have one world government. It's only a matter of it's through consent or conquest." They realized, you know, having World War I, World War II, you know, boot stomped on you, that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to engineer something, have a coronavirus that's a bioweapon that China released by, you know, weaponizing it by putting it in like a, you know, it's, anyone that's done any research on this knows that this was, whether it was released deliberately or not, I mean, doesn't really matter. The U.S. government helped fund, you know, the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Fauci helped fund it, where they're taking, you know, back coronaviruses and trying to mix it with, to spread it to humans, and then they use an AIDS delivery system to weaponize it. The guy that discovered AIDS even said that. And you've got, you know, guy that made the PCR test saying that basically the PCR test is bullshit, and there's all sorts of reasons not to trust it, and you're getting all these false positives, there's all these different types of coronaviruses, and then I get people who want to think like, oh, I don't know anything. Well, you know what? People don't say that I know nothing, like metaphorically and intellectually, like I will kick your fucking ass. So on any of this stuff. And when's the first, and not to, you know, it's not yelling at the people watching this right now, but you know what? I bought a mask 6 fucking years ago. I had 60 masks and a hazmat suit and was looking into this stuff when Ebola was going around. You know, I wore a mask February 19th flying back from Acapulco, mainly just to be a dick to the TSA flying back to the country, and they were pissed at me for wearing a mask. So, you know, if there's so much scientific literature about wearing masks, then how come there's really no scientific literature about it? I mean, go look up the studies that show cloth masks actually make it much worse. And if you are actually going to, if it is a global pandemic, like going into one room to another, you should be having like these safe rooms where there's all these big procedures and hazmat suits, and you know, if you're out and about all day, you would probably need like, you know, to change your mask like every 30 minutes. If you have one of the surgical masks, I mean, those are only good like a surgical environment. You know, N95 masks, everyone's like, oh, you need to protect others. Well, I mean, technically it doesn't filter the air coming out, so you're actually not protecting others. And actually it's the dirtiest air that's then coming out. And actually, you know, if you're wearing that around like your grandmother, it could actually, you know, be worse because you're getting more bad stuff and you're breathing in, you know, all of your own recycled air, which is terrible. You know, basically creating a, you know, all this, you know, warm heat environment, perfect for bacteria and germs to grow, not to mention compromising your immune system. And so, you know what? I'm going on the offense with all this stuff. I've been traveling everywhere. I mean, I'm just trying to think of all the states I've been. I mean, I've been recently since the summertime. Obviously, Arizona, New York, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, flew into Pennsylvania briefly. You know, obviously back to Arizona, then New Mexico. I've been in California. Texas, just left Texas, now Louisiana, then probably might make it into Florida, not sure or not. Yeah, then we're gonna end up in Georgia, then go into South Carolina, then probably go to Tennessee, then probably go to, you know, whatever I put on my geographical map here, but you know, Arkansas and Oklahoma, and probably back through Texas, maybe probably not touch Colorado, but you know, get pretty, actually we might hit up 4 corners, maybe just so I can say I hit more states, but you know what, I'm out here gallivanting around, you know, come get me, you know, I'm not sick, probably, you know, like I said, was first out of the water in a triathlon when I haven't open water swam in 2 years, even when I did swim, it was just once in like a half Ironman open water, and I didn't really practice for that one either, so I mean, really it's been, you know, probably about 2016 was probably the last time I really trained to swim, and I'm still the first motherfucker out of the water, just like a boss. So, I mean, like I get these people who have never worked out a day in their life, and they're like, oh, you know, I got to the top third of a sprint triathlon this past weekend with zero training, besides like maybe 3 hours a week of tennis. So, you know, I'd love to see somebody get into the top third when they haven't trained like myself for 18 months, and then they want to lecture me about health, lecture me about wellness. You know, when you go, you know, it does, you know, contrary to popular belief, you know, it actually does take quite a bit. It's not just, you know, pure muscle to do an Ironman. It takes a lot of, you know, it takes, I'll say math. You know, it does take, you know, a lot of know-how, intuition. Actually, I wouldn't say intuition, more experience. You know, knowing how the human physiology works, knowing about, you know, all sorts of different, you know, it's stuff that I've forgotten, you know, a lot of this stuff, like, but, you know, how many calories you can take in per hour, and the amount of, you know, electrolytes you need, and then, you know, then one thing goes wrong on you, and all of a sudden, I mean, you're in basically, you know, survival mode at this point when you're racing. It's one thing just to do one, but I mean, if you're out there, like, actually going as hard as you can, racing an Ironman, you know, whether you're racing it and coming in 16 hours, or racing it and coming in at 8 hours, 16 hours is the time limit, I believe. You know, if you're racing it to the best of your ability, I mean, it's very, very tough to do. I mean, it's very, very tough to do. I mean, and I would say just to do one, like anyone watching this right now, if they really put their mind to it, could do one just to do one. But if you're just, like, I could probably go out and do one tomorrow. If someone's like, hey, $10,000, go do one tomorrow, boom, I'll go out and do one tomorrow. So, you know, if anyone out there wants to, you know, chip in, and I'll go, maybe not tomorrow, because actually I don't have a bike on me, so maybe we'll say when I go back to Arizona. But yeah, I'm 100% confident I could go do one literally tomorrow if I had to. Now, to race one, yeah, it'd be a very, very dumb idea for me to go race one, you know, as fast as I could, because I'm not in shape, and, you know, it's not something you should just waltz into, and it is something you need to, you know, respect highly. But, you know, that was my life for, you know, 10 years. So, you know, I do know a little bit about something about health, and I get comments on my Instagram like, hey, I love everything you're talking about, you know, financially, but when it comes to health, I'd rather listen to Luke Radowski. Like, okay, you'd rather listen to, you know, a guy that just moved out of his mom's, like, basement. No, you know, not to be mean, it wasn't the basement, but, you know, the guy that eating McDonald's all the time, and oh yeah, let's not listen to the 7-time Ironman triathlete, who at one point last year, I think my lowest I ever clocked it in at was a 28 resting heart rate when I wore a heart monitor to bed. And then I get people, you know, telling me that they would not want to listen to me for health advice. So, I mean, it's just, okay, go listen to Luke Radowski. Obviously, he knows way more than me, you know, being scared, you know, socially distancing for the past, you know, 7 months while I've been out gallivanting all around. So, yeah, go listen to him. Don't listen to me. You know, I don't know anything, but, you know, I'm not a doctor, so I just want to put that out there. So, none of this is really health advice. It's just, you know, we're headed to Jekyll Island, and the reason we're going to Jekyll Island is because this is where America was stolen. Well, not the first time. I mean, America was stolen a few times. Like in, you know, you had the first central bank that came in, that was ended in 1812. Literally, the British came down here and burnt down the fucking White House because they owned the first central bank of America. You don't see that in your textbooks because the textbooks are owned by the Rothschilds. And then the second central bank of America was, I can't remember what year it was ended. It was probably like 1847 or something like that. Again, it's been a while. It's all just off memory here. And it was Andrew Jackson who got rid of that. And then, just to be basically a dick to Andrew Jackson, they put him on the $20 bill, even though he hated fiat money. And you know, Trump has a big Andrew Jackson, you know, painting in his Oval Office. Well, you know what? You know, you're just a joke, Donald Trump, by doubling the size of the Federal Reserve and advocating. I mean, he's advocating for what they're doing right now. I'm totally on board with what they're doing right now. So don't tell me, oh, it wasn't his decision, when he's out there using the bully pulpit to expand their reach, expand their power. Worst thing he could have done. So don't tell me, oh, it wasn't him. Well, guess what? He's the guy that put Jerome Powell in there. So it's his fucking fault. And I knew about what a swamp monster this guy was, you know, 4 years ago when he did it. I forgot what point I was going to make. Oh yeah, so when Andrew Jackson got rid of the second central bank in America, he said, "You are a den of vipers. By eternal God, I shall rout you out." And then a guy came up to him with 2 handguns, both at point blank range. Both of them misfired, and the guy said it was wealthy Europeans that put him up to it. And you have, you know, Abraham Lincoln that said, "I have an army in front of me that's the South, and I have an army in front of me. Yeah, an army in front of me that's the South, and an army in my rear, which are the European bankers. And I far more fear the army in my rear." And so even he was fucking with the banks, and, you know, he got assassinated. You know, JFK to some extent was fucking with the banks with his, you know, proclamation of legalizing silver as legal tender. So that way when you had a dollar bill, it'd say backed by silver, not backed by the Federal Reserve notes, which actually they're not backing anything. They don't have any of the money. And so, you know, he got assassinated. So, I mean, it's just, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just a coincidence that, you know, all the presidents that tried doing something about it all got assassinated. And guess what? Trump's not doing shit about it. He doubled the size of the fucking Federal Reserve. Doubled it. Did more than every other president combined. Everyone combined. Like, I'm not, like, and I know people are gonna get mad at me for this, but, you know, I was trying to warn against this shit 4 years ago. I didn't help put him in there and help reach millions of people. And thank you for those of you out there who are sharing all the memes and everything, you know, 4 years ago to, you know, make sure Hillary wasn't in there. But, you know, the end game isn't, you know, just make sure Republicans aren't in there. But yeah, getting back to the story, and then, you know, then after the Civil War, America got hijacked again in 1871, where they basically got rid of the United States of America and turned it into, you know, America Inc., corporation of states. Go look that up. You know, 1871, I believe, is the year that happened. And then the other most recent coup was in December 23rd, 1913, when there was only a few people in the House of Representatives, because it was the day before Christmas Eve. And what they wanted to do was make sure that the big bankers would never have to backstop the system ever again. So they came up with a Federal Reserve System that was neither federal or reserving anything, and use their and then even guys like, you know, like Teddy Roosevelt gets all this claim for being a big trust buster. The guy didn't bust anything. I mean, what he did was took all these companies and then split them up. But the same people owned the fucking companies. So it didn't bust up anything. It's like saying, oh, we're going to bust up Amazon, but then Jeff Bezos still owns it all. Like, but we're going to bust up Facebook, but Mark Zuckerberg still owns it. We're going to bust up Google, but Sergey Brin and Larry Page still own it. I mean, which is started by the CAA, which their venture capital firm called IN-Q-TEL. If you want to call it bullshit on me, go look it up. I'm not making that up. Even Facebook was basically a project called LifeLog that then was a government contract that read basically just like, basically exactly what Facebook is. I've been on Facebook since 2004, probably one of the, first probably 1 million people on there, unfortunately. But yeah, I'll probably be getting off of there soon, just because, it's all a bunch of propaganda. It's not good, mentally to be on there, and, it's just, it's all, they're just keeping us all in echo chambers and getting us all to fight. I was on there to expose the man, and I was under fake names, didn't want to be known, didn't want to, put myself out there. And, it was a big enough deal in 2016 that I wanted to defeat Hillary. And I said when Obama won the second time that I'd do everything I could to make sure Clinton or Bush wasn't in there in 16. And, the corrupt Democratic Party couldn't end up, handle their end of the bargain. So, all I said I wanted was somebody that wasn't Goldman Sachs, that wasn't CFR, that wasn't a globalist. And I thought I had a shot with Donald Trump, but then he goes in there and puts in all Goldman Sachs people. A bunch of swamp creatures, but I don't understand 4D chess, quite as much as all the people that just discovered the deep state 2 years ago. So, and it really fucking pissed me off. I mean, go to my YouTube page where I have only I think 800 people have seen this, but on my YouTube page, like the trailer intro video, I have a video where I said September 16th, 2016, there's only 50 people following me, that Donald Trump would win, and they'd blame it on the fucking Russians. Who else was saying that he would win and that they would blame it on the Russians? Like, how more fucking accurate do you have to be? How more accurate do you have to be than that he would win and they would blame it on the Russians? And this is maybe I had 3 videos or whatever else. It's not like I had 1,000 videos and I batted 0.1% and just go back to where I said something. At the time I only had a couple fucking videos, and I said this is what they're gonna do. And obviously now, it's very, very, you don't be a rocket scientist to figure out what they're gonna do now, is that they're gonna say, assuming that Biden doesn't win in a landslide, what they're gonna do is you're gonna say, because the mail-in votes, no one knows who won, and Trump is just being a sore loser, and because of him, the stock market's going down. I'm talking after the election, if it's contested, and put everything in jeopardy. Because listen, in 2016, they knew Hillary was going to win, and she lost. She lost a rigged race, and then this time they're not fucking around. They're not taking that gamble. And the thing is, Trump because of that, he needs every single person that voted for him, and probably another 5-10%. But guess what? He's pissed off people like me, who actually have had the people that he needs. He needs people like me, independents, libertarians. He doesn't need the people that are going to fucking vote for him. And so to me, by doubling the size of the Federal Reserve, there's very little he would even do to. I'm not voting, but you know what? Free somebody like Ross Ulbricht, and you know what? And I'll go vote for you. Really beautiful view, but I'm going over a bridge right now, so I can't really look at this. But you want to maybe pan out to the view that we see over here? Not really sure. I don't know. Maybe it's Lake Charles. Maybe I don't know. I don't really know exactly where this is at. Hopefully you guys can still hear me, because I know that the audio is kind of goes in the direction that the camera is facing. But it's just very frustrating. Seeing this stuff, calling it out, talking about March 20. When I was saying that Trump was gonna, that on an annualized basis, if he's in there for 8 years, that he probably would double the deficit and be on the same path in terms of debt that Obama was on. Everybody. I lost so much. People lost so much respect for me, and I know we're saying I'm effing libtard and all this other shit. And you know what? You want to go criticize people like me that are actually doing something? Well, then fine. Well, I'm not going to go help him out because he hasn't helped me out. What? I was worried, okay, well, if somebody like Hillary gets in, well, they're going to shut down free speech on the internet. Well, guess what? This video, if I post it on Facebook, is probably going to only be seen by 100 people out of, 32,000 fucking people. I have less people following me today than I did 4 years ago on that. Really that. Yeah, and you know what? You want to talk about prognostications? Also had arguably, and go, before you want to call bullshit on this, I had 2 interns that I paid for 80 hours to go dispute this claim to try to prove me wrong. I had the first fake news list where I was calling out the left. I'm not saying that the first person ever string those words together, but we're essentially this professor out of New Hampshire, Melissa Zimdar, said, anything that that the right, say that the right, all the publications like InfoWars, Breitbart, Zero Hedge, shit like that, they're all fake news. I'm like, oh man, that's perfect. You guys are the fake news. And so I made a fake news list. I did it like on PowerPoint, had a background, and put in like, Snopes, Huffington Post, Mother Jones, Fox, even I put in most of Fox News just because I know that even people on the right are a bunch of snowflakes, and I was trying to see if I could find a way to help convert them. And I went to two different investment conferences where, by coincidence, Tucker Carlson, I really liked it at the time, where he was the main feature speaker, him and Paul Begala, who both used to do Crossfire together at CNN. That should tell you enough about him. But he was there saying, oh, Hillary's really moderate, she's really not that bad, and we should just give her a chance, and when she gets in there and wins. And so now he's like the conservative, and guys like fucking Ben Shapiro. If there's ever a person who I'd like to like debate intellectually, because Ben Shapiro, yeah, you're really great going up against and debating all these fucking retards from the left that don't know anything. Why don't you go against somebody like me that would fucking destroy you in a debate? Because you're there with your $1 billion Texas backers, you're there with your 50 fucking writers and everybody telling you what to say. Why don't you go after somebody like me who's able to do this shit with zero notes, didn't even know I'd be going into this fucking rant, and and I wish that the guy was like a foot taller, because I'd probably want to fight him, because I'm not just some little fucking dweeb hanging out up until recently hanging out in LA. And this guy was a big never Trumper. Now he's supposedly like the carrying the torch of libertarianism for millennials. Well, fuck you, Ben Shapiro. And the people who like think that that's some like the the conservatism. I mean, they're milking you. He's basically the new Glenn Beck. From the first time I heard of Glenn Beck, I thought the guy was like, what are you trying to say? I'm trying to think of the word here. Not a psyop, what the fuck is the word I'm trying to think of? Controlled opposition. Controlled opposition is the phrase that I was trying to say.
It said maximum file save. Is it done?
Okay, and I guess we're done here because I ranted too much. So, anyways, love you guys if you're still watching. I know it was a big rant, but you know what? This is important now because this is really battle for humanity. So, you know what? If we don't fight now, there's not going to be a chance to fight later, and that's why there's a impassioned plea now. And you know what? Go research the Federal Reserve, get active, spread the word about that, because it's not about voting for Donald Trump, because guess what? Voting for Donald Trump maybe buys us some more time, but you know what? It doesn't fucking matter. Peace out.